Hi everybody, this is WildStorm Comic Reviews here, and I just wanted to share some extended thoughts on the crossover that I covered a few videos ago of Backlash and Spider-Man. This video isn't going to be as long as the other ones, and I'm not going to go through the story of this crossover. This is just kind of sharing my extended thoughts of the crossover and why I like it and why I really enjoy it, and I guess you could say the impact it had on me, but this is just really me sharing my thoughts on the crossover and just highlighting a lot of the stuff I enjoyed from reading this crossover. So again, this is a Backlash Spider-Man, and of course it's 2 issues. It is a crossover between Marvel and Image Comics. It has characters featuring Spider-Man and Backlash and Taboo. Backlash and Taboo are from Image Comics, and Spider-Man is from Marvel. Yeah, it was a really good crossover. I really enjoyed it. This crossover is what actually got me into Image Comics in the first place. Because, before Image Comics, I was into Marvel, basically. All I read was, as far as comic books go, was Spider-Man. Like, that was basically it. All I read was Spider-Man, basically. I was a huge Spider-Man guy. I read, and when it came to Spider-Man, I always read the comics that had my, favorite villains in them, if it had Green Goblin or Venom, I'd definitely pick it up. That's how I collected Spider-Man, was that I'd look at the coverage of the Spider-Man issues and I go, does this have Green Goblin on it? Does this have Venom? Does this have Carnage? Maybe the Shocker, because the Shocker's pretty cool too, or the Hobgoblin. Those are my favorite villains. So Hobgoblin, Green Goblin, Venom, Carnage, and Shocker. For the most part, yeah. And if they had those villains on the cover, I'd definitely pick them up. So that's how I collected Spider-Man comic books. And again, all I read was Spider-Man basically. And then later on, I ended up getting into Darkhawk, who's like a lesser-known 90s superhero that Marvel Comics made, and I really got into him. What's funny is the reason I got into Darkhawk was one day I was surfing a Comixology, which is this comic book app. It's a digital comic book app, and I found this. I was looking for some good Spider-Man, Hobgoblin stories, and I found one, and it had this Darkhawk, this original character on it named Darkhawk. It was a Darkhawk issue, but Spider-Man and Hobgoblin made a guest appearances in it. So I'm like, this looks pretty cool. The art looks really good on the front cover. Hobgoblin looks pretty awesome in this. And this Darkhawk character seems pretty cool, I guess. So I bought it on the digital store and I read it on my Kindle and I really liked it. And I really just bought it for Hobgoblin and Spider-Man, but, I was like, what, this Darkhawk character, he looks pretty cool. He has a cool helmet, he has this, sci-fi theme to him. And so I'm like, what, why don't I try reading Darkhawk and see what this is all about? And I ended up, I would read one issue after another, and I really got into Darkhawk, Chris Powell's story. And again, I want to reiterate, Darkhawk is a Marvel Comics character. He's not related to Image. He's from the same company as Spider-Man is. So we kept reading more Darkhawk comics. I ended up buying the first 10 issues because that's all they had back then on Comixology. So I read all those 10 issues and I really like it. I like the story, like the character. He looked really cool. He had this kind of a visor like Boba Fett did, like this kind of purple visor, but anyways, I'll cover Darkhawk in some later detail later on. We'll see. But yeah, so yeah, I was trying to say that I was into Spider-Man and then I got kind of into Darkhawk, and that was kind of the first time I kind of got away from Spider-Man and got into other superheroes and other characters. And then I discovered this crossover. I was I was in Houston and I was at a comic book store and I picked up this it was this one right here. It was the Backlash Spider-Man crossover, issue 1 of 2. I read it, and I really, really liked it. I didn't even know a thing about Backlash or Taboo, and to be honest, I didn't really even care about them back then. I just got it because Spider-Man was in it, and Venom also played a role in it, which, and also I was a huge Venom fan, so of course, I was going to get it for that. And, yeah, I liked the story. I thought it was awesome. I thought the crossover was fun, and I didn't even know who these characters were back then. I thought it was just a good crossover, and later on, this is a year or so after I bought once I bought issue 1 from the comic store, I ended up going online and finding the second issue and reading it. I liked the crossover just as it was. And then a year or so later, I started digging through my back issues, and because I wanted to read this crossover again, and I was digging through my back issues trying to find it. And I was reading it again. I was looking at the I think I was looking at this particular cover right here. So look at this cover right here, and I'm like, you know what, this Backlash guy, he looks pretty cool, and I remember really loving the art in these issues because, you know, with Marvel Comics, at least to me, like their art was always good, like it was enjoyable, but it wasn't like this where it was like very detailed and very colorful and, you know, stuff like that. It didn't just pop out at you. And the artwork in this comic book really did, and I really liked how Spider-Man looked. And you know, I was like, Backlash, you know, he looks cool. He has this really cool looking costume. He has like these lasers, or whatever, that come out of his wrists. He kind of swings. It looks like he swings on them like Spider-Man. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should check this guy out. And so I ended up a year or so later, or whatever. I ended up going to a Comic-Con, and I ended up trying to find some issues of Backlash. And again, this Backlash isn't really a well-known comic. It was a comic that was made like in the 1990s, and you know, it was pretty hard to find. It wasn't like a Spider-Man or Batman; you could just find it anywhere. But I ended up going to a booth at a Comic-Con where they're selling comics, and I ended up finding some back issues to Backlash, and I ended up reading them. And at first, I wasn't into the story. I really didn't get into the character at first, but then I kept reading it more and more, and I kept buying more issues, and I kind of ended up getting into Backlash, and I really started liking the story, and yeah, that's how it started, basically. So this crossover basically got me into Image Comics, kind of got me away from Spider-Man and just Marvel. It got me into other companies and other characters and other stories, and I sort of developed kind of an enjoyment for these lesser-known 90s superheroes and 90s comic books. You know, like Grifter, Backlash, Youngblood. You know, the comics that I've covered already. Just ignore the noise, guys, but yeah, I started developing an interest in those lesser-known characters, and I really like the art. I ended up really liking the art of these 90s comics, and yeah, this crossover, basically, to sum it up, just got me into Image Comics and other characters. If it wasn't for this crossover with Spider-Man, I probably wouldn't have gotten into Image Comics, and honestly, I'd probably still be reading Spider-Man, and to a lesser extent, Darkhawk to this day. I wouldn't even be interested in the Image universe of these lesser-known characters. I'd still be just reading Spider-Man comic books if it wasn't for this crossover. So yeah, so that's kind of how it influences me. But about the crossover itself, it's just a really good crossover. Not a lot of people talk about it. I actually found out that yesterday I was commenting on a YouTuber's channel, and apparently he did a review on it, which I don't think I might have watched it before. Maybe I forgot, but I watched it. It's like, because I thought not a lot of people really talked about this. Well, I found out that the YouTuber I was talking to, he has actually a large following and a channel, and apparently he talked about it, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And yeah, I just really think that this crossover doesn't get the recognition it deserves. It really doesn't. Okay, so some of the things I really like about it, of course, and this stuff I've already talked about in the review, but I want to highlight it. The artwork is great. Let's just get that out of the way right here. The artwork is freaking fantastic. I mean, look at how detailed this is. I mean, it's just so super detailed. I mean, Spider-Man in this book, you can see the symbol really pops out at you. I mean, the webs and just everything, really. I mean, you got Backlash here, and he's very detailed and very colorful. You can see his webs out here. And I'll show a couple pages of issue 2 here. See, as you can see, the art is just great on this. Like, look at how detailed this is. I mean, you wouldn't see, you wouldn't see this in a Marvel comic book. You really wouldn't. Like, you'd get some good artwork, but I don't think you'd get as detailed as this. Sorry, the phone's kind of fuzzy. I'll just flip through some more pages. See, we get this cool photo right here of Pike, and we get Venom, who in my opinion looks really good in this book. And in some ways, he actually looks... So again, this book is drawn by Brett Booth. Yeah, Brett Booth. And yeah, he gives just a very detailed design to all of his characters. And if you read a lot of the Backlash issues, like from Backlash 1 to issue 23, the artwork looks like this. Like, it's very detailed. The characters look very cool. And yeah, his artwork is just awesome. He makes the Spider-Man characters just like really stand out. And I feel like he actually makes Venom look a little... I'm trying to find some shots here where he makes Venom look... I don't know, like... Sorry about that. Yeah, he makes Venom look a little more alien in a way when he draws him. Like, and I kind of like that little aesthetic. Like, there's some shots where I feel like he just looks a little more alienish to me. Like, I don't know, I'm trying to find a good example. Here's another good shot. You get Backlash here. Going up here, and you get Spider-Man swinging his web. Trying to find a good shot here. Just another good shot here, like some of the... This is the coolest shot where Brett Booth, and they do this in issue 1, I probably won't show that, but you can see that Brett Booth kind of gives Venom like a shadow-like appearance. I don't know, like that's really, really cool to me. He gives him like a shadow, like it looks like Venom's like a legit shadow with the way that he's drawn, and I really like that. Like, it's like you're walking and you see your own shadow. He gives Venom a very shadow-like appearance. And also, Venom right here, he just looks like very alienish with his teeth and everything in his eyes. I'm not an artist, so I can't really explain this all well. I can't draw or spit, to be honest. And here we get a cool page right here, where they're busting in, and you see Backlash and Spider-Man, and you get this big, like, splash page here. And then you got Venom, and you got Pike, and it's really, really well done. The glass is flying everywhere. Oh, another thing I wanted to point out with the artwork, wait, let me see. Let me find... There was a good picture of Venom somewhere here. And then I'll go back to that. Okay, I don't want to make this video too long. I'm going to try my best not to, but I make no promises. But I like this image right here because it looks very... when Pike is swatting a Venom, I don't know, it looks a little more alienish than usual. Like, I can't... Like, the eyes or something. He looks a little more alien. Like, it's pretty cool. It's cool. I just really like the artwork in this. Like, he looks a little more alien than how you would see him in, like, a classic Marvel Comics Venom comic or something. I don't know. Where was it? There was another one. Yeah, and this one right here where he has his mouth a little open. Like, it just looks a little alienish. Like, it looks really, really cool. Of course, you got Venom Pike here, which is probably the coolest image in the book here. I really like this a lot. I like how they took advantage of Venom and actually had him bond to Pike. It's really, really neat. Really neat image. I want to get a... So you got the V here. And then you got the symbiote wrapping around him. Got his eyes lighting up here, and it's just a really, really cool image. But yeah, there was one more cool shot I want to show you guys, and then I'll probably get into the story. And again, I already made 2 reviews of this, so this is just sharing my thoughts on some stuff I really liked. See the rain dripping on Spider-Man's head here? I really like that a lot too. And see the rain kind of dripping off of Backlash's mask. I don't know, it's cool scene. I feel like there's just some cool added little detail here. Rain dripping off of Spidey's head and everything. And here you can see it dripping off the mask. And I need to do a little better job here. Yeah, you can see it a little bit here. Rain dripping off of him here. Yeah, just really to sum up the artwork, it's just really good overall. Like, I think Brett Booth did a really good job, and he really brought some extra pop and color to the Marvel Comics characters that are Spider-Man and Venom. And this is also the artist what really got me it's what wanted to get me into Backlash because it was just so very good and very detailed. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the art. Just really good, really detailed. Brett Booth did an amazing job of making Spider-Man and Venom stand out. I mean, you can see from the freaking cover alone. Again, the only nitpick I really have with this artwork, if you look in my first review of this crossover, is that Venom's tongue, yeah, it's like the... And if you look at my review, you can see it. I'm not going to show it here, but you can see that Venom... He has, like, the... when Venom, like, smiles or shows his tongue, he always has that, like, green slime coming out of his mouth. Like, that makes him a little more alien. In the comic, Brett Booth kind of gave him some regular, like, watery spit, not the green slime. Not the green alien slime you'd see coming from his mouth. But again, that's a small nitpick, and it doesn't really bug me that much at all. It's just... I think it would have been cooler if he had the green alien slime. Especially with Brett Booth's artwork, I think it would have been cool if Venom had the green alien slime coming out of his mouth instead of just the regular watery spit that, people have. But again, nitpick, it's just a nitpick. It doesn't really take away from the story at all. Like, literally at all. But okay, the story. Oh yeah, well, okay, I'm not going to go into story, obviously. I'm just going to talk about it. I talk about why I like it and a lot of the aspects I do like. Again, the story does a really good job. First off, the people who wrote the story are... It's a cool little image right here, too, just show off more of the artwork. You got Backlash here. You've got Spider-Man. Ben Reilly. Again, this isn't Peter Parker. It's Ben Reilly, the clone of Spider-Man. And then you got... the team, I think the Team 7 symbol here, over here, and then you got the Spider-Man symbol here. It's again Team 7. Backlash was a part of this military unit called Team 7, and they all had special telekinetic abilities, and so I think that's what that 7 means right there, because Backlash is a part of Team 7. But again, I could be wrong. But I'm guessing that's what it is. Could be something else. But yeah, here's the people who wrote and did the story. Pencils, Brett Booth, so he did the artwork. But the story was done by Sean Ruffner and Brett Booth. Again, I'm not going to go into the story because you can watch my reviews for that. But I'm going to highlight the stuff I liked about the story. The book, I'm going to flip through some pages just to... and we'll just stop here. So, what I liked about the story is the fact that... First off, Sean Ruffner and Brett Booth. Brett Booth basically writes and does the art. If you don't know, Brett Booth does the story, writes the story, and the artwork for the Backlash series. So he writes the stories for Backlash, and he does the artwork for Backlash. And to see him tackle Spider-Man and Venom, all I gotta say is he did a freaking excellent job with Spider-Man and Venom in this. There's only like one nitpick I have with Venom, and that's it. But everything else he's done perfectly. The cool thing is he doesn't, he doesn't make Spider-Man and Venom look like idiots. Because again, Backlash is Brett Booth's book. This is an Image book with Spider-Man and Venom coming in as like a guest characters. Like this isn't a Marvel book. It's very much an Image book with Marvel and Venom being guest characters in it. And the thing that I like about it is that he doesn't make Spider-Man and Venom first off look stupid, but he also doesn't give them too much praise in this book. Because again, like I said in my earlier reviews, you could easily give Spider-Man and Venom here. You could easily give them praise in this book to make more money and to get more sales. You could easily have them overshadow Backlash and Taboo because they're lesser known characters. Even though this is your book as the artist and writer and these are your characters, you could easily overshadow them to make Spider-Man and Venom stand out more because they're more popular and they sell more books. But Brett Booth didn't do that, and I respect that a lot. He actually made Backlash and Taboo major characters in this book, and he didn't make Spider-Man and Venom, overshadow them, which is what I like. They actually contributed in the book, and also, I'm not going to show you the photo. I'm not going to show you the thing I'm talking about because I'd have to pull out the other issue and flip the pages. But I will say, like I said in my other reviews, is that he also makes his characters interesting to new readers. He also makes his original characters, Backlash and Taboo, interesting to new readers by actually making them interesting and making their personalities cool and giving them backstory. Because in the first issue of Backlash, Backlash Spider-Man, we actually get to in the first issue of Backlash Spider-Man, we actually get to learn about Taboo and Backlash's origin, because there's a scene in the first issue of Backlash Spider-Man where Taboo, let's see if I can find a photo of her here. Where is she? This chick right here. In the red hair and the purple suit. There's a scene in the first issue where Taboo, Amanda Reed and Taboo are the same character. Taboo is like her superhero identity, but Amanda Reed is the actual person. Amanda Reed is the actual person. She goes to the funeral, and she's talking about her dad and how he was an alcoholic, and how, and she talks about how her mother died, and her dad was an alcoholic, and and her dad would tell her that, oh, you need to get over your mom's death. Death happens all the time, Amanda. Yeah, your mother died, my wife died, and it's sad, and your mother died, and yeah, it's sad, but you gotta learn to get over death. Death is a part of life. And she was talking about how, Taboo was talking about, my dad would say just to get over my mother's death, but he would never show signs of getting over it. He would always just confined in a bottle, and he would just drink himself to death. And she showed a bunch of anger and emotion with that. And that was cool because it's like, you're actually making, Brett Booth is actually making his original characters in this Spider-Man crossover interesting. He's actually trying to show new readers what his character is all about. And, he's trying to actually, like, hey, we know you love reading Spider-Man. We know you probably picked this up just for Venom and Spider-Man. But hey, why don't you maybe give Backlash and Taboo a chance? You might be interested. You might be into these characters. Check them out. And I like that. I like that he tries to not overshadow his characters, his original characters, with the more popular characters of Spider-Man and Venom. Unlike the the Gen 13 Spider-Man crossover, which Spider-Man not only overshadows the Gen 13 characters in that crossover, but Spider-Man, in my opinion, and if you like the Spider-Man Gen 13 crossover, I'm not going to say anything. If you like it, that's your opinion. My opinion is, not only does Spider-Man overshadow the Gen 13 characters in that book, but Spider-Man is also a complete idiot in that book, in my opinion. Like, he's just completely stupid. He's not smart like he is in his original comics or in this crossover. The Gen 13 Spider-Man crossover, it's another Image Comics and Marvel crossover with Spider-Man and some original Image characters, those being Gen 13. And in my opinion, that crossover is pretty trash. If you like it, that's great. But Spider-Man in that crossover was a complete idiot. He didn't use any of his smarts that he has. Spider-Man's a smart character. He's a scientist, basically. Like, he's a scientist, and he's very good at math and stuff. And yeah, the Gen 13 book just made him a complete idiot. And he constantly made him also unlikable. Like, Spider-Man in that Gen 13 Spider-Man crossover, Spider-Man was basically mocking the Gen 13 characters and showing them some straight up disrespect, basically. And yeah, it just and the Gen 13 characters were just very overshadowed and kind of getting made fun of. Whereas this crossover, the thing I like about this crossover is that this crossover not only shows respect to the more popular characters that are Venom and Spider-Man, but it also shines light on Backlash and Taboo, and also shows respect to them as being the more original characters. And done like it's very balanced. It's very even. All the characters are treated with a fair amount of respect, and no character is really overshadowing the other one. And so, yeah, that's one of the things that I also really like about this crossover is that, you could easily just overshadow Backlash and Taboo because they're not as popular as Spider-Man and Venom, but no, Brett Booth shows both respect to Backlash and Taboo, his original characters, but also shows a lot of respect to Venom and Spider-Man as well. So, and you also, another thing I like about this, that you can tell that, I don't know if it's in this issue. Here, let's see. There's a good part here. I'm trying not to make this video too much longer, but I want to really do want to, because I feel like this crossover is just really, really underrated. Like, real quick though, and I think the reason why it's so underrated as a crossover is because Backlash is just simply not that popular, especially nowadays. Because Backlash, for those, and I'm going to kind of get into Backlash as a character too a little bit, but anyways, yeah, sorry, I'm kind of messing up my points. Really quick, to what I was saying, Brett Booth, I felt like, knows not only a lot about his original characters, but he knows a lot about Venom and Spider-Man as well, because, he starts to talk about how, he starts to talk about how, in this part right here in the book where he goes, Brainium, one of the characters who is a part of Backlash, he starts talking about how, the Venom suit, it can, be sliced up, but it can also regenerate and re-heal itself. You slice the Venom suit up, you get pieces off, but it quickly regenerates itself. Then Spider-Man explains, his backstory about the Secret Wars, and how we got the black suit, and how Venom bonded to Eddie Brock. I just felt like Brett Booth really knew not only a lot about his original characters, but he paid a real good amount of attention to Spider-Man and Venom 2. Like, he has knowledge, really good knowledge on Venom and Spider-Man as characters. And one thing, the YouTuber I was watching, because the bigger YouTuber I was watching who was making a video on this crossover, he mentioned that thing he also really liked about it is that the fight takes place, I don't know if you know this, in a cathedral. It's similar to how, if you're a Spider-Man fan, Spider-Man, when he had the black suit and he wanted to get rid of it, he went to a cathedral, and he went to a bell tower, and he was able to get the suit off of him, right? And then Venom would end up finding Eddie Brock at the same cathedral and end up bonding to him, right? Because that's how the story is. Well, the fight takes place at a cathedral, and there's a similar situation that happens where, the Venom symbiote bonds to Pike, right? And then, the Venom symbiote bonds to Pike, and Spider-Man has to ring this giant church bell, and he's able to get the Venom suit off of him, kind of referencing the fact that of the earlier Spider-Man comic books where, Spider-Man had to ring a church bell to get the symbiote off of him, and then the symbiote bonded to Eddie Brock. So, I don't know, I just feel like Brett Booth really knew what he was doing with all the characters involved. He knew what he was going to do. He knew what he was going to do with his original characters, but he also knew a lot about Spider-Man and Venom, and he did a lot of really good, well-rounded writing on him, even down to some of the jokes that Spider-Man makes. Where's another good one? Where Spider-Man goes, Pike's stand still, Spider-Man's and, avoid my record for avoiding hits from slow-moving goons, perish forbid. And then Spider-Man jumps up, and Pike's trying to whack him, and then Pike's you can't run away from me forever, Wallcrawler, and Spider-Man's on the roof this whole time, and he ends up just punching Pike in the head from the roof, and it's a really good joke, and it's funny, he not only gets Spider-Man as a character, but he really wrote some really good jokes here. I mean, it's really, really good, I just felt, in general, Brett Booth did a really good job of understanding Backlash and not only his original characters, but also understanding what makes Spider-Man and Venom tick and what they're all about and what their stories are. And yeah, he just did a good job at showing respect to both characters. I mean, honestly, it's great. The only nitpick I have, honestly, out of all the characters, is Venom and the scene where, I thought about this in my first issue review, where there was a scene where Spider-Man and Taboo were fighting Pike and Venom in New York. Or the scene where Pike, this guy right here, he grabs a baby and he pushes the baby out into the street. And of course Spider-Man goes in to save it, but the weird thing about that scene is that Venom does absolutely freaking nothing. And at this point, Venom in this storyline, this is set in the 90s, this crossover is 95, I believe, or something like that. And Venom was a lethal protector at this point in time, so, if he saw that baby, getting pushed out, he would have definitely saved the baby. Not only would he have saved the baby, because Venom, Eddie Brock, very much cares about innocence. He's very much about, I care about innocence, I care about people who don't know how to defend themselves, yada, 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 Venom's an anti-hero, right? So he cares about the innocents, but he also kills the bad guys. So not only would Venom have saved the baby, but he would have straight up just killed Pike and would have forgotten all about the whole deal that he made with him. So that part was kind of off. That's kind of a nitpick for me. That's kind of a little out-of-character thing with Venom, is that I feel like Venom, because Venom literally, saw the baby go out into the street. You see, Venom saw Pike push the baby out into the street, and all Venom did was sat there and smile, and I'm like, Venom would not have done that. At this point in time, Venom would not have done that. He wouldn't have just sat there and watched the baby get run over. No, he would have helped Spider-Man save the baby, and then he would have eat Pike's brains. No, that's not accurate at all. But again, that was a small nitpick. That was a really small nitpick, and yeah. But other than that, the characters, the way they were written, were perfect, honestly. I got no complaints there. And another thing, real quick, I wanted to point out was the motivations of the characters in the story, particularly with Venom, and how the fact that Brett Booth gives Venom a reason to be in New York and a reason to fight. Sorry, guys, my hand's getting kind of tired. Gives Venom a reason to fight Backlash and Taboo is because, like I said in one of my earlier reviews, the reason Venom even is in New York and the reason why he ends up teaming up with Pike is because Taboo has a symbiote. She has a symbiote of her own. And Venom's like, oh, this lady has a symbiote, so she has to be related to Carnage, and so she has to be a spawn of Carnage, right? Like one of ours. But no, apparently Taboo, she has a symbiote, and he was right about that. But Taboo's symbiote is made up of vampiric DNA, and her symbiote is designed to shield her from the undead rays of the sun. It's designed to shield her from the sun, or designed to shield the undead from the rays of the sun. And her symbiote's made out of vampire DNA. So Venom was right about the symbiote, but he was completely wrong about it being related to him or Carnage. So I like the motivation that they give the characters in this book, and how they don't just, because they could have easily put Venom in here as like a quick cash grab, like, oh, Venom, you know, the reason Venom is in New York because he loves chocolate, you know, so, you know, in the movie Venom loves chocolate, and in the comic books, one of the comic book series, he has to eat a lot of chocolate to fend off his more violent tendencies, right? So they could have easily just made it like, oh, there's a chocolate shop, and Venom needs to go to get some chocolate in New York, so he can, like, you know, stop his violent tendencies, you know, eat the chocolate and stop his violent tendencies. But no, they actually gave him a real motivation and didn't just make Venom like a freaking cash grab. So I like that a lot. And yeah, so I'm trying to think of anything else. My hand's honestly getting kind of tired, so I may just go ahead and end the video here, because I think we talked long enough. But yeah, really, really good. I'm trying to think of anything else. Artwork, story. I might, okay, well, actually, I'll take a minute probably to go into, okay, so Backlash, for those of you who don't know, because I think I am going to start talking about Backlash as a character. I'm not going to go into any Spider-Man stories, because, I mean, you can find any YouTube channel that talks about Spider-Man. Like, it's just go to Comic Pop or, you know, Venom Vlog or something like that. But I think I'm going to probably go into more detail into Backlash and his story, because Backlash, real quick, I might go into a little bit of his story, but people want to write Backlash off as just another lame 90s superhero. But the more I actually read about this character, the more interested I got. So Backlash, I'm just going to give a little bit of an origin of his character. Backlash is a guy known as, his alias is a guy known as Mark Slayton. And Backlash is basically half alien. He is a cherubim from he's a cherubim. So Backlash has basically lived for thousands of years. Like, he's been around for thousands of years. Like, in the comics, it's shown that he's like just this regular old guy. Yeah, I mean, you've seen the photo already, but he's portrayed as this like older guy. But no, he's been around for like thousands of years. Kind of like a Wolverine situation, where Wolverine, he has a healing factor, but he's been around for thousands of years. And I'm not gonna lie, I can't remember if Backlash has a healing factor or not, but yeah, he's been around for thousands of years. And Taboo, of course, this lady here is his partner, Amanda Reed. And the reason her and Backlash get together, I'm not going to go into the whole story because I plan on covering this, but Backlash and Taboo, the reason they meet is because Taboo in the Backlash comics gets framed for a murder that she didn't commit, I believe, and Backlash ends up breaking her out of Purgatory Max, which in the Image WildStorm universe where Backlash is from, Purgatory Max is like I don't know, like Rikers in the Marvel Comics universe. It's like this big, gigantic prison, Purgatory Max. So Backlash breaks Taboo / Amanda Reed out of the prison. And the reason why he breaks Taboo out is because somebody in it, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but the reason why he breaks Taboo out of prison is because somebody ended up not murdering. Somebody ended up putting Backlash's girlfriend in this like mental coma, basically. Like, so the reason he breaks Taboo out of prison is because somebody put Backlash's girlfriend in this like mental coma, and she can't wake up from it. Like, Backlash's girlfriend can't wake up from this like mental coma. So of course Backlash is mad. You know, he's madly in love with this girl who's in the coma. And, you know, he wants answers. He wants to go after the guy who put his girlfriend into like this big mental coma. So he's like, you know what? I'm gonna break this Taboo chick out of prison, because he also feels like Taboo might be tied into the reason why his girlfriend is in this mental coma. So he's like, you know what? I'm gonna break this girl out. She's gonna help me out. And, you know, he's like, and basically the deal is like, okay, here's the thing, Taboo. I'll break you out of Purgatory Max. I'll break you out of prison. And if you can stop the guy who put my girlfriend into this coma, I'll clear your name of all charges. I'll clear your name of all the murder charges. I'll clear the name of the person who framed you. You know, I'll help you out. So that's kind of the deal that Taboo and Backlash have. And that's why they're partners, basically. And that's basically what the story of Backlash is about, or at least the first few issues is. So there's a little spoiler right there for those of you who are interested. And again, Taboo was framed for murder. Backlash breaks her out. to help stop the guy who put his girlfriend into a coma, and if Taboo helps him out, Taboo will get freed of all her charges and won't be framed anymore. Because, she was framed for a murder she didn't commit. But yeah, that's Backlash and Taboo's story in a nutshell. There's a lot more story that goes into it. And Backlash is, I'm going to say this, Backlash is actually a really good series. Like, after I read this crossover, I really, first when I was reading the Backlash issues, I wasn't that interested, but then I could read more of it, and I got really interested into the characters and the story. The writing is actually really, really good for Backlash. Like, Brett Booth actually does a good job of getting you interested in Mark Slayton Backlash's story. There's a lot of cool twists and turns. The Taboo and Backlash are written really, really well. Not just in this crossover, but in their actual own series. You really get invested into their characters. And honestly, Backlash is probably my favorite Image character of all time, honestly. Like, I love Shadowhawk and obviously Super Patriot, Youngblood, and all those characters I've talked about, but Backlash is probably my favorite because not only does he have a really freaking awesome costume, but I love his powers. Oh yeah, by the way, Backlash's abilities are the fact that he can turn into mist and that he has these like psionic whips that he shoots out of his wrist. And I'm trying to remember, I think the way that he's able to shoot the whips out of his wrist is that he has like a mental telekinetic ability that he's able to use to shoot the whips out of his wrist. So like he can shoot them out of his wrist using his mind, I believe. They're like these psionic whips. And he can like strangle people with them. He can like electrocute people with them, or like use the energy in the whips to destroy people with it. So yeah. So in Taboo again, Amanda Reed has a vampire symbiote, which allows her to have vampire powers. Like she can like manipulate people's minds. She can like mind control people by putting her hands on people's heads and mind controlling them and stuff like that. And she has this in the later comics, she actually sprouts like these vampire wings where she can like fly anywhere she wants to. And yeah, kind of stuff like that. So yeah, these are really good characters. The writing for them is really, really, really good. And I am going to probably cover it because I think Backlash is an underrated character and he deserves some more spotlight because the story is really, really well done and well told. But there's a little sneak peek for you guys. But anyways, what else? Yeah, anyways, I guess that's the end of my extended thoughts. I just wanted to do another video about this crossover because I do think it's underrated, and I think the reason why it's underrated, real quick, is because, of course, Backlash is not a really well-known character, even compared to June 13, which isn't even really that well-known, but is a more popular set of Image characters than Backlash is. But yeah, it kind of sucks this comic crossover doesn't get talked a lot about, but anyways, yeah, I do think it's underrated. It's a great crossover. Brett Booth and Steve Ruffner not only do a good job at telling Backlash and Taboo's story, but they also do a good job of highlighting Spider-Man and Venom. They don't make the Spider-Man and Venom, they don't make them seem stupid. They don't make them seem too superior to Backlash and Taboo. Like, everything seems really balanced in this book. The artwork is great. And yeah, that's my thoughts on Backlash Spider-Man, the two-part crossover, the two-part crossover, from Image Comics and Marvel Comics. So, yeah, maybe I'll talk about this crossover again someday. I mean, we'll see. I might do maybe a comparison video of the June 13 Spider-Man crossover to Backlash Spider-Man crossover and explain why the June 13 one isn't as good and why this one, in my opinion, is better. We'll see. But I will probably go further into Backlash, because I really want to kind of explore his character a little bit. But, we'll see what happens. Nothing is really guaranteed on my channel. So, but anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And this is Dark Storm Comic Reviews, signing off.